In the heart of a vibrant city in Nigeria, where the streets hummed with the energy of vendors selling wares and children playing, Ogechi and Chima eagerly awaited the arrival of their first child. The couple was deeply in love, and the excitement of parenthood filled their home with joy. Ogechi, radiant and full of life, often dreamed about the future, imagining a beautiful family filled with laughter and love. As the days turned into weeks, the anticipation grew. The nursery was painted a cheerful shade of yellow, adorned with teddy bears and bright decorations. Friends and family showered Ogechi with gifts, from colorful clothes to soft blankets, all meant for the little one who was about to enter their lives. "I can't wait to hold our baby," Chima said, his voice filled with affection as he stroked Ogechi's belly. "Do you think it will be a boy or a girl?" "Either is fine with me, as long as they are healthy," Ogechi replied, her eyes sparkling. They spent evenings discussing baby names and their dreams for the child. Their love seemed destined to create a perfect life. On a bright morning, Ogechi went into labor. The couple rushed to the hospital, excitement tinged with nerves. Chima held Ogechi's hand, whispering words of encouragement as the contractions intensified. Hours passed, and the joy of expectation quickly morphed into a desperate struggle for survival. After a long and painful labor, Ogechi finally gave birth to twin daughters, Neca and Ada. But joy turned to horror as complications arose during Ada's delivery. The doctors fought valiantly, but Ogechi's life slipped away, leaving Chima shattered. In an instant, their world was turned upside down. He cradled both daughters in his arms, feeling the weight of his loss. With one breath, he welcomed new life. With the next, he mourned the love of his life. Overwhelmed with grief, he couldn't help but feel that Ada was responsible for Ogechi's death. The bond that should have united the twins was poisoned by tragedy. In the aftermath of Ogechi's death, Chima's emotions spiraled into a storm of resentment. He struggled to cope with the loss of his wife and, in his pain, directed his anger towards Ada. To him, she was a constant reminder of what he had lost, a living embodiment of his grief. Neca, still an infant, was spared from the brunt of Chima's wrath but soon picked up on her father's feelings. As she grew, she unconsciously mirrored his disdain. Chima showered Neca with love and affection while harshly criticizing Ada for her chubby appearance and perceived weaknesses. The twins' relationship was marred before it could even develop, leaving Ada feeling abandoned and unloved. Chima often muttered words of contempt in Ada's presence, as if she could hear the echoes of her mother's absence. "If only you had been born first, maybe your mother would still be here," he would say, sending Ada into a spiral of guilt. The seed of hatred was planted deep within their family, threatening to bloom into a toxic environment. As years passed, the differences between the twins became painfully clear. Neca thrived under Chima's favoritism, excelling in school and receiving praise for her achievements. Ada, on the other hand, struggled with self-esteem, constantly belittled by both her father and sister. Chima's harsh words stuck to her like a second skin, and Neca's bullying became a daily occurrence. "Look at you, Ada! Why can't you be more like me?" Neca would often taunt, her laughter ringing out like a mocking bell. "You'll never be beautiful or smart." Despite enduring the torment, Ada tried to find solace in her studies, excelling academically even as her social life dwindled. She focused on schoolwork, hoping that one day her efforts would earn her a bit of respect or at least a moment of kindness from her father. But with every passing year, the chasm between the sisters grew wider, and Ada found herself trapped in a cycle of humiliation. At home, Chima's harshness toward Ada deepened. Every mistake, no matter how minor, was met with anger. "You're useless! I should have known better than to hope for anything good from you," he would yell, sending Ada to her room in tears. There were days when she wished she could disappear, where the pain of her existence felt too much to bear. Despite the torment, Ada's resilience began to shine through the darkness. She learned to adapt, finding solace in small victories. When she received top marks on her exams, it momentarily lifted her spirits, but the fleeting moments of happiness were quickly overshadowed by Neca's and Chima's disdain. Ada sought acceptance in every corner of her life. She volunteered at local charities, hoping to show her worth through acts of kindness. However, the more she tried to please her father, the more he found fault with her. It seemed that no matter how hard she worked, she would always be seen as inferior. With Neca's encouragement, Chima began pushing for more stringent expectations. "You should be more like your sister, Ada," he would say. "Why can't you get good grades like her? Maybe then I'd be proud of you." The pressure weighed heavily on Ada, making her question her very existence. On particularly rough days, she would sneak into Neca's room and gaze at the pictures on her sister's wall of smiling friends and joyous moments. Ada longed for a sisterly bond, but instead, she felt like a ghost in her own home, invisible and unwanted. As Neca approached her teenage years, she became more independent and assertive, often ridiculing Ada in front of her friends. "Look at my chubby sister. She's the joke of the family," she would say, laughter erupting among her peers. Chima, meanwhile, reveled in his daughter's achievements, often dismissing Ada entirely. During family gatherings, he would beam with pride as he spoke of Neca's accomplishments, ignoring the fact that Ada was right beside them, wishing for a fraction of the attention. The emotional chasm between them widened. While Neca was busy preparing for her wedding and seeking her father's approval, Ada was left to navigate her life alone. The house that once brimmed with dreams now echoed with tension and bitterness, leaving Ada feeling more isolated than ever. As the wedding approached, Chima's obsession with Neca intensified. He spent hours discussing the wedding plans, neglecting to notice the growing resentment in Ada's eyes. He couldn't see how his behavior had created an unbridgeable divide in their family, nor could he fathom the pain his actions were causing his younger daughter. The day of Neca's wedding arrived, a dazzling event that filled their home with laughter and joy. The house was adorned with vibrant decorations, and the scent of delicious food wafted through the air. Friends and family gathered, celebrating Neca's new chapter in life. Chima was the proudest father in the room, basking in the attention and compliments. As the wedding ceremony unfolded, Ada was relegated to the role of a servant, tasked with helping to manage the festivities. She wore a forced smile, hiding her true feelings beneath the surface. In her heart, she felt a mix of sadness and anger, knowing that while everyone celebrated Neca, she remained invisible. During the reception, as Neca danced and laughed, Ada watched from the sidelines, feeling like an outsider in her own family. The stark contrast between the joy of the occasion and her isolation cut deep. Despite her efforts to support her sister on this special day, the pain of being unloved and unwanted seeped into every corner of her heart. As the night went on, Neca and her friends took selfies, documenting their happiness while Ada stood alone in the background. In that moment, Ada realized that no matter how hard she tried, she would never be enough for her father or sister. Tears welled in her eyes as she quietly left the celebration, unable to bear the weight of her loneliness. After the wedding, Neca settled into her new life, quickly adapting to her role as a wife and eventually a mother. As she adjusted to her new responsibilities, she realized she needed help with childcare. Without hesitation, Neca approached Chima with a request, "Can you send Ada to stay with us? She can help me with the baby." Chima hesitated, still harboring resentment toward Ada. However, he saw this as an opportunity to rid himself of her presence at home, so he reluctantly agreed. "Fine," he said curtly. "If that's what you want." When Ada received the news, a whirlwind of emotions engulfed her. Part of her felt relieved to escape her father's wrath, but another part of her was terrified at the thought of living with Neca, who had always treated her poorly. As she packed her belongings, Ada felt a strange mix of hope and dread. Maybe this new environment would offer a chance to change their relationship. Or perhaps it would only deepen the divide. With a heavy heart, she set off to her sister's home, unsure of what awaited her. Once Ada arrived at Neca's house, it quickly became clear that her new role was one of servitude. Neca treated her more like a nanny than a sister. "You're here to help me, remember? The baby needs constant attention," Neca would remind her, delegating tasks without a second thought. Ada worked tirelessly, caring for Neca's baby, cleaning and cooking, all while being subjected to Neca's constant criticism. "You're doing it wrong. Why can't you be more organized?" Neca would snap, further damaging Ada's already fragile self-esteem. Despite the harsh treatment, Ada kept her head down and tried to do her best. In her heart, she still longed for Neca's approval and hoped that someday things would change. Each day was a struggle, but Ada pushed through, motivated by the hope that her sacrifices might lead to a kinder relationship. As the weeks passed, the stress of her situation began to weigh heavily on Ada. The constant belittling from Neca and the overwhelming responsibilities took a toll on her spirit. Though she tried to remain hopeful, she often found herself retreating into her thoughts, feeling more alone than ever. In the midst of her struggles, Ada found solace in the friendship of Ife, Neca's neighbor. Ife was warm, kind, and understanding, quickly sensing Ada's turmoil. One day, while visiting, Ife noticed Ada's sadness and gently asked, "Why do you look so down? You're such a lovely young woman." Ada hesitated, but eventually opened up about her experiences with Neca and their father. Ife listened intently, offering words of encouragement and support. "You deserve to be treated with love and respect. Never forget your worth," she said, instilling a sense of hope in Ada. Inspired by Ife's kindness, Ada began to rediscover her own strength. She started standing up for herself, asserting her boundaries with Neca, even if it was just a little at a time. The small victories ignited a spark of confidence within her. Ife's friendship became a lifeline, reminding Ada that she was not alone. With newfound resolve, Ada started to envision a future where she could break free from the cycle of abuse. She began dreaming of a life filled with self-love and happiness, one where she could be proud of who she was without the need for validation from Neca or their father. As Ada grew stronger, Neca began to feel the shift in their dynamic. No longer was Ada the timid girl who accepted every insult, she was starting to assert herself. Tensions reached a boiling point one evening when Neca exploded in frustration over a minor mishap with the baby. "You're such a disappointment. Why can't you do anything right?" Neca screamed, the venom in her voice cutting through the air. For the first time, Ada stood her ground, saying, "I am doing my best, Neca. You don't have to treat me this way." The confrontation shocked both sisters. Neca paused, taken aback by Ada's defiance. For a moment, silence enveloped the room, thick with unspoken emotions. Then, Ada continued, her voice steady, "You've always treated me like I'm less than you. I deserve respect too." Neca, feeling the weight of Ada's words, was at a loss. In that moment of vulnerability, she realized the damage she had done. The rift that had grown between them began to crack, allowing a glimmer of understanding to seep through. Neca took a deep breath, her anger melting away into regret. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice softer now. "I've been so focused on my own life that I didn't see how my words affected you. I'm sorry, Ada." Ada was taken aback by her sister's apology. For years, she had longed for acknowledgement and empathy, and now, for the first time, she felt a shift in their relationship. It was a tentative moment, filled with the possibility of healing. "I just want to be seen and valued, like you," Ada admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. The confrontation marked a turning point for both sisters. Over the following weeks, they began to engage in honest conversations, slowly peeling back the layers of resentment that had built up over the years. They shared stories from their childhood, reminiscing about moments that had once brought them joy and those that had caused pain. Their bond began to rebuild, and in the midst of it all, they discovered a new foundation of understanding. They laughed together, shared meals, and even took turns caring for Neca's baby, finding comfort in each other's presence. Back in the city, Chima started noticing the changes in Ada. The girl he had always seen as a burden was transforming right before his eyes. She was becoming more confident and self-assured, qualities he had never given her credit for. But he struggled with his feelings of resentment and guilt. One evening, as he sat alone in the dim light of their home, Chima reflected on his actions over the years. He replayed the moments of anger, the harsh words, and the indifference he had shown Ada. Regret washed over him like a tidal wave. The reality of how he had pushed his daughter away sank in, and he felt the heavy weight of responsibility for the fractured family. That night, as he lay in bed, he found it hard to sleep. His thoughts were consumed by the image of Ada, the innocent girl he had treated so cruelly. "How could I have been so blind?" he whispered to himself, staring at the ceiling. Determined to change, Chima resolved to reach out to Ada. He needed to make amends, but he didn't know where to start. The thought of facing her after all these years filled him with dread, yet he knew he had to try. As Ada and Neca's relationship flourished, Neca faced unexpected challenges in her marriage. The initial bliss began to fade as the reality of parenthood set in. Stress, fatigue, and misunderstandings strained her relationship with her husband. Feeling overwhelmed, Neca found herself at a breaking point. One evening, she burst into tears, revealing her struggles to Ada. "I thought it would be easy, but it's so hard. I can't do it all alone," she sobbed, the walls of her pride crumbling. Seeing her sister in distress stirred something deep within Ada. For so long, she had been the one seeking help. Now, the tables had turned. She embraced Neca, offering her support without hesitation. "You're not alone. I'm here for you, and we'll figure this out together," Ada said, her heart swelling with empathy. Neca's vulnerability opened a door for both sisters to grow even closer. They started working as a team, dividing responsibilities and tackling the challenges of motherhood together. Through this experience, Neca learned to appreciate Ada's contributions, while Ada discovered her strength as a sister and friend. Together, they navigated sleepless nights and the ups and downs of parenting. The bond they had forged through adversity was unbreakable, and both sisters realized that their love for one another was stronger than the hatred that once defined their relationship. One afternoon, Chima mustered the courage to visit Neca's house. His heart raced as he approached the door, the weight of his past hanging heavily on his shoulders. Would Ada even want to see him? Would she forgive him for all the pain he had caused? Neca opened the door, surprise washing over her face. "Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and caution. "I need to talk to Ada," Chima said, his voice shaking. Neca hesitated but ultimately stepped aside, allowing her father to enter. Ada was in the living room, tending to Neca's baby when she noticed Chima standing there, an expression of remorse on his face. The air grew thick with tension as she looked up, her heart pounding. "Hi, Ada," he began, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I've come to realize how wrong I was to treat you the way I did." Ada's eyes widened in disbelief. She had waited so long for this moment, yet she felt a mix of emotions, anger, hurt, and cautious hope. "Why now, Dad?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with pain. "I've been reflecting on my past behavior," he replied, sincerity etched across his features. "I let my grief consume me and took it out on you. I'm truly sorry, and I want to make things right if you'll let me." Tears began to form in Ada's eyes as she struggled with the weight of his apology. It was a moment she had longed for but never expected. "It hurts, Dad," she admitted, her voice breaking. "You made me feel worthless for so long." Chima took a step closer, his heart heavy with regret. "I know, and I wish I could take it all back. I want to try to rebuild our relationship, but I understand if you're not ready." With a trembling heart, Ada took a deep breath. "I need time to process everything," she replied, her voice softer now. "But I'm willing to try. We both need healing." As days turned into weeks, Chima began visiting Ada and Neca regularly. Each time, he brought small gifts, a new book for Ada, toys for the baby, or flowers for Neca. They were simple gestures, but they symbolized his commitment to change and his desire to reconnect. With time, their conversations deepened, allowing them to explore the wounds of the past and the hopes for the future. Ada began to see glimpses of the father she had longed for, the one who could love and support her without reservation. And for Chima, every visit filled him with hope, knowing he was slowly earning back his daughter's trust. In their shared experiences, laughter replaced the silence that had once filled the room. They celebrated milestones together, from Ada's achievements in school to the baby's first steps. The family that had once been torn apart by hatred was slowly being stitched back together through love and forgiveness. Finally, they decided to have a family gathering, a chance to start anew. Chima invited friends and family, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and anticipation. As they sat together, sharing stories and laughter, Ada felt a warmth in her heart that she had long thought lost. "Here's to new beginnings," Chima raised a glass, his eyes shining with hope. "May we never forget the lessons we've learned and the love that binds us together." Ada smiled, her heart full as she clinked glasses with her sister and father. The past was still a part of them, but now it was intertwined with a brighter future, one built on understanding, acceptance, and the unbreakable bond of family. As the sun set over the city, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Ada, Neca, and Chima gathered on the porch, watching as the world passed by. The laughter of children playing nearby filled the air, and for the first time in years, Ada felt a sense of belonging.